What is up, guys? Welcome back to our channel. So today's video, as you can tell by the title, I'm gonna be talking about my birth story, and yeah, I got me a little snack. It's just some yogurt and some granola. The baby is sleeping, so hopefully I can get this video in. Let me take a bite. So I'm gonna start off all the way from the beginning. If you guys haven't checked out the vlog, I'm gonna leave the card up here so you guys can check out the vlog. I'm gonna be answering a whole bunch of questions. That video has a whole bunch of questions that everyone wants to know that wasn't really recorded. So I'm just gonna start from the beginning. So basically, I woke up on Saturday. What the start of the vlog is like showing me making my coffee and stuff like that. That was not planned. I was actually filming a what I eat in a day video for my 3rd trimester, and then it just so happened that I ended up going into labor, which is why I included that in the vlog. Basically, I woke up that day feeling really normal. It's funny because I actually posted a picture on Instagram and I said that I was, you know, going to try to do the minimal as possible to with Legacy to make sure that she doesn't send me into labor, which it was a joke, but it actually ended up happening. So basically, what you guys saw in the vlog is that I made my coffee and got Legacy ready, and then we were heading to the grocery store. So I ended up going to Walmart, and I went to Walmart and I got pretty much all the way through my grocery shopping. I had to get coffee, and then when I was in the coffee aisle was when I got my very first contraction. Now at the time I didn't know that I was actually having a contraction. It just, like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, I got really lightheaded, like I had to hang on to the cart. I felt like blood was rushing up to my head. Like, I felt so weird. I could not focus on what I was actually doing, which was trying to pick out the coffee that I drink all the time, you guys. I could not focus. Like, I had to just basically start walking. So I started to walk up to the front with the cart still. Legacy is with me, and there is usually like on Saturdays and stuff, there's a little table, and a lady like is trying to get you to sign up basically for the newspaper and stuff. At that point, once I got to there, I started to feel another contraction, and again I just felt really dizzy, just really crazy. So I asked her, I said, ma'am, can I please use your chair and sit down? She was like, what's wrong, baby, what's wrong? And I'm like, I don't know, I feel like I'm going into labor, but I feel really lightheaded. I just need to sit down for a moment. She of course sees me with, you know, a whole toddler, so she's like, are you okay? Do you need me to call somebody? You know, are you like going into labor? Like blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, I'm not, you know, I'm not sure, but I feel like this has been my 2nd contraction, but it's just making me feel really lightheaded. So she's like, you know, she lets me sit down. Legacy's just looking at me like, what is going on? But she's like being so calm at this point. So I called Marshall and I'm like, babe, I think like I've been having a couple of contractions. Like, I'm not sure what's been going on, but I feel like, you know, this is it. I'm having contractions. And how they were coming, like, it felt like super soon. Like I told you, I was from the coffee aisle basically to the front of Walmart, and boom, I had got another one. So I was really nervous at this point because, you know, I hear a lot of stories about the 2nd baby coming so much quicker than the 1st one came. So I'm just like, at this point, like, oh my gosh, please let me just not have this baby in Walmart. So basically, he's like, well, just, you know, go to the car, I'll meet you there, because we live like right up the street from Walmart. So he's like, I'll go to the car, I'll meet you there, and you know, if you can't drive, like, we'll just leave your car in Walmart, whatever. So I'm like, no. I just literally walked around Walmart, got all these groceries. Like, I'm paying for these groceries. And so I went to the line, and of course, like, I'm like getting another contraction in line. So like, I don't know if you guys know how Walmart has like multiple cashiers like in one little alley thing. So it was like one and then another one, but I was in the line for the second one, but this one didn't have anyone there. So I sat down where like they do the spin around of the grocery, like the bags or whatever. So I sat down right there to have this, and I see people like looking at me, but I'm like having another contraction, and like there was like this lady, like she was looking at me, she was like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm okay." So then you know, I get up and I start to put my stuff on the belt and stuff, and so then like I get another contraction. So at this point I'm just like, oh my gosh, I just had like 4 contractions in like 10-15 minutes, like what is going on? So the girl's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Well, I think I'm in labor right now." She's like, "What?" And so she like starts to help me. She calls this boy over, so they start to help me basically load the groceries onto the cart. So I pay for the groceries, I start to walk outside. Like when I got outside, I just felt like I could not focus. Like I knew my car was like, you know how Walmart has like 2 entrances and it's huge, so it's like if you park on the opposite side but you walk out of this door, like you pretty much have to walk all the way to, you know, the other side to get to your car. But I walked out the right door. I knew I parked on the grocery side of the Walmart entrances, but like I just could not focus. So at this point I called Marshall again. I'm like, "Babe, where are you?" He's like, "You know, I'm right." I'm like about to pull in basically. I'm like, "I can't focus. I don't know where my car is. Like I don't want to pass out. Like I'm just so scared." Like I don't even know how to explain the emotions that I was feeling then to explain them now, but I was just scared basically. Like I didn't want to pass out, and you know, I had Legacy with me. Like she's just looking at me like, "What's going on?" So basically I was able to, you know, gain my composure, I think, because in that moment I was having another contraction and they were making me feel dizzy for some reason. So I was able to regain my composure. I walked to the car. So I'm walking to the car, and then like right next to my car is like these ladies. They parked, you know, they had just parked. There's 4 ladies, and I stopped at the car, and I think I was having another contraction. I was just kind of just breathing really hard, just, you know, trying to gain my composure. The ladies are like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No, you know, I'm having a contraction. I'm like basically in labor. I feel really dizzy." They're like, "Oh my gosh," like they immediately just went into help mode, mommy mode. Like one of the ladies said that she had a 5-week-old, so she just had a baby. So like, and then like I immediately started crying, like, and I'm just like, so I just started crying, and they're like, "Oh my gosh." And I think I just started crying because like I was thinking about my mom not getting here, which I'll get into. I was thinking about my mom not getting here in time. I was thinking about just, you know, I don't know, like I just started crying. So they load the groceries into my trunk. They're like, I'm like, my husband's is pulling up. Like I could see him at this point coming into the parking lot. So I'm like, my husband's coming. Legacy goes with one of these ladies. She lets one of these ladies pick her up, and she just like cuddles with this lady. Like she literally like hugged the lady. Like I think she knew, like, you know, something was going on. And so basically, you know, they help me load the groceries up. Marshall comes, he puts Legacy in his car seat. He's like, her car seat. He's like, "Are you sure, like, can you drive?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I could drive, whatever." Then we live right down the street from Walmart, so we drive home, and we get home. I immediately called my mom, and I'm like, "Mom, you know, I was in Walmart. I've been having a couple of contractions." She's like nervous because this is on Saturday the 9th. She was supposed to come Tuesday the 12th. So basically, you know, she wouldn't have made it. So she's like nervous, like, "Oh my gosh, so do I need to get a flight, blah blah blah." So I called my cousin. She works for Delta, and you know, that's like my sister basically. So I called my cousin. I'm like, "Jovi," she's like, she immediately was like, "What, you're in labor?" I'm like, "Yes." She's like, "How many contractions, you know, how have they been coming?" She just had a baby, like her baby's 3 months old, her 4th. She's like, "Do you want me to change your mom's flight?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna let you know," because I didn't know, like, you know, I had no signs of going into labor really. Like this is on Saturday. On Thursday through the night, like I had got a couple of contractions, but I kind of just went to sleep, and honestly on Friday I forgot about them. I had a normal work day, and I kind of forgot. So Saturday, like, it was all just like, I just thought that it was like a fake labor, you know, like it was like a, you know, kind of going into labor, but it's going to be a couple days before the baby's born. So basically she's like, you know, well, let me know in an hour if your contractions are consistent. There's a 5 o'clock flight. I think it was like around 2 o'clock at this point. She's like, there's a 5 o'clock flight. If, you know, in an hour, it'll be about 3 something. If we need to get this flight for your mom, we can buy it. And basically she'll have to leave at that very moment to get to the airport by 4, and boom, she'll get on the flight and she'll be here by like 8 p.m. So I called my mom and I told her, you know, what was going on. She's like, well, you need to go to the you need to go get your eyelashes done, and you need to go get your hair done, because she knew that I was supposed to go get that stuff done on Monday, and I just knew that he was gonna come that week, you know. So basically she was like, you need to go get your lashes done, you need to go get your hair done. And I'm like, Mom, like, this is the last thing on my mind. And she's like, no, Joanna, you need to go. She was like, you need to leave right now and go get that stuff done. Tell Marshall to drop you off. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm telling her, you know, well, be on standby, get your stuff packed. So if in this hour that I'm doing this stuff, you know, my contractions are consistent, then, you know, you're gonna get on this flight. So she's, you know, getting herself together. I went and got my lashes done. I went and got my hair done. And my contractions were pretty much still consistent. So at this point, we knew that she had to get on that flight. So my mom made her flight. And basically in between that time from when she landed at like 8 something and 4 something after I got my hair done, I kind of just laid down. I packed Legacy a bag because we had to go bring her to my cousin's house. I packed her a bag. I got in the shower. I shaved my legs and just was continuing to have contractions. Basically around like 8 o'clock, because I didn't really vlog any of this from the moment we went to the hospital. So basically around 8 o'clock, we went to the airport, we got my mom, we picked her up, and we went to my cousin's house. So we stopped at Panera Bread, we ate there. I had a broccoli and cheddar soup with some salad and a sandwich. So that was like the last thing I ate before, you know, the baby was born. We went to my cousin's house and I pretty much just labored there for a little bit. We probably got there around 10. We didn't go to the hospital until like 2 in the morning. In that time, my mom made me my ginger tea. So basically in the Dominican culture, it is normal for a woman who's going through labor to have a ginger tea. Basically is raw ginger grinded up into a tea, making it a tea. So I probably, from the hours of 10 p.m. and the time he was born, I probably had, I don't even know how many cups of tea. Like, I had so much, and it helped my labor so well. So if you're watching this and you're currently pregnant, and especially if it's your first child, because with my first, my labor was so long, and then the moment that I had this ginger tea, I don't know why we waited so long, but the moment I had this ginger tea, within that hour, my contractions went from 10 minutes apart to 5 minutes apart. So yeah, if you're watching this video and this is your first time pregnant, I definitely recommend getting some raw ginger and grinding it up and making a tea out of it. I called the labor line because I just felt like, you know, this is my second child, so I know how intense contractions are supposed to get. So I just kept telling my mom, my aunt, and my cousin and stuff, like, you know, yeah, my contractions keep coming consistently, but I just don't feel them as strong as, you know, as they should be, you know. So of course they're like, you know, it's your second, you don't know how, I have a high tolerance of pain. They're like, you know, it's your second, you don't know, things can happen fast. So they're like, Joanna, please don't have this baby here. And I'm like, well, y'all all done had enough kids between the 4 of us to probably be able to deliver this baby. So I called the labor line. I told her, you know, what was going on. I told her how consistent my contractions were, and she advised for me to go into the hospital. So we got to the hospital around 2 something in the morning, and basically when I got to the hospital, I was only 1 centimeter dilated. And I'm like, oh no, like, I've been laboring all day basically, and I'm only 1 centimeter dilated. So you know, they wouldn't admit me until I was about 3 centimeters. So the doctor said that I could, you know, since it was like the middle of the night, they're like, just walk and we'll check you in 2 hours. So me and my mom literally walked for like an hour and a half. I drank more ginger tea because we brought the ginger with us. So I drank more ginger tea, and within an hour and a half, I got to 3 centimeters. So I was admitted, I was checked again, admitted, you know, monitored for about 15-20 minutes, and then boom, me and my mom started walking again. So we walked again for like another hour, hour and a half. We were just walking at like, I want to say at like 5, 6 in the morning. I only went up to like 4 centimeters. So I wasn't checked again until about 12 p.m., 1 o'clock. So I was, you know, still 4, and I think I jumped to 4.5 centimeters. So things were moving, but not so fast at this point. So around like 1, it was like 2 o'clock, because I remember I text Marshall because he had went to go get something to eat. So I texted Marshall around 2 o'clock that they were going to break my water and that things were possibly going to progress faster. The midwife at the time, she told me that because it was my second baby, that, you know, she had offered to break my water sooner, but I was like, let's just see if it'll break on its own. You know, we're walking, we're doing what we need to do. I'm bouncing on the yoga ball at this point and doing all of this stuff. So around 2 p.m. I was like, you know, let's go ahead and make the decision to break my water, because I didn't want to get tired, you know, because I was trying to go natural the whole route. So I didn't want to, you know, tire myself out. You know, I had been up basically a long, like 24 hours. So I didn't want to get tired. So I was like, okay, let's go ahead. Let's get things going. Let's break my water. So she broke my water at around 2:30. Y'all. After she broke my water, my contractions got so intense, and they were like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, they got so intense after she broke my water, which I already knew. So when she broke my water, she checked me and I was 5 centimeters. So like literally 2-3 contractions after she broke my water, at the end of this one contraction, I had the urge to push. So the contractions basically go like this, you know, like they build up, they peak, and then they kind of dip low. So like at the peak of the contraction, like dipping low, because you could see it all on the monitor and stuff. And I'm the type, like I was watching my contractions even though I was having them and I could feel them, but it was like a satisfaction to see the peak of it, to know that, you know, okay, it's almost over. It's just like a mind thing or whatever. But so at the end of like this contraction, I got the urge to push. So I'm like pushing, and I'm like, Mom, I'm like pushing. There was no nurses or anything in the room. So my mom runs out to the nurse's station, and she's like, hey, she just had a contraction. She had the urge to push. Mind you, I'm on a natural journey. So when you're going natural, your body will tell you, and like the urge to push is not gonna come unless you have to push. So okay, so I got this contraction and had the urge to push. So at this point, it's like maybe like 3 o'clock or so. So they're almost on shift change, but the midwife that previously broke my water, it was like her last couple minutes of being there. So she checked me again. She was like, honey, you're like 5.5 centimeters, but you know, be careful pushing because your cervix is beginning to swell. She explained to me that if my cervix swells, you know, then basically there's no way that the baby is going to be able to come out vaginally, and then I would have to have a C-section. So a couple of contractions later, the urge got stronger and stronger. The nurse at this point advised for me to have the medicine, the IV medicine, to kind of calm me down a little bit and, you know, try to reduce the urge to push. So I'm just like at this point scared, you know, that my cervix is gonna swell. So I of course am like, okay, that's fine. Let's do the medicine in the IV. So while she's prepping for that, like the next couple, because they're literally coming out a minute apart at this point. The next couple contractions after that, the urge got stronger and stronger. Like it was like something like I was bearing down, like I was screaming, like basically now I can tell you guys, I was crowning at this point. Well, he was crowning at this point, but no one had checked me to tell me that I had progressed with literally within like 20-30 minutes. I probably went from 5 to 8 to 9 to 10. So okay, so she does IV, and I'm like, okay, go ahead and start with the epidural. You know, start the process of getting the epidural. I had already signed the paperwork ahead of time, you know, just in case anything went, you know, happened or whatever. So basically, she gives me the IV. The IV medicine doesn't do anything. Like, I already knew previous, because when I had it with my first, it didn't do anything for me. It just makes you feel really loopy and just really kind of out of it. Like, it doesn't relieve any pain at all or anything. So basically, she tells me that the anesthesiologist is administrating another epidural at the moment, so it would take him a while to get here. So at this point, I'm still having these contractions where I'm literally pushing. So the nurse is sitting right here at this point. She's telling me, she's the one that's in the video, most of me pushing, that same nurse. So at this point, you know, her and Marshall are just like trying to tell me to breathe, don't push, because they still think that I'm 5 centimeters. I don't know why the nurse didn't check me. I really don't know why she didn't, but I think there was no midwife available for an hour, basically, from the first midwife that came, well, from the last midwife that came at 3 o'clock and checked me and told me the whole details about my cervix and stuff. Like, there was no midwife available basically until I delivered the baby. So and then also the anesthesiologist was also not available. So at this point, I'm having all of these contractions where I'm basically crowning, I'm basically pushing, and I'm being told not to because, you know, they're scared my cervix is gonna swell. But the urge that you feel, like when you're going natural, like like I said, your body is going to tell you what to do. So my body was telling me to push. So my mom is like down there, she's like, I see his head, and the nurse is like, no, you possibly can't, because, you know, she's not, but she didn't take the time to actually look herself. I'm having, like, within this last hour, I'm having all these contractions that I'm basically pushing, you guys. Like, it's still, like, I had to take some time before I did this story, because honestly, the emotions that I feel when it comes to my, I guess at this point, is my delivery part of, you know, having the baby. It was very emotional. Honestly, I was not expecting it to be like that. I'm someone who is very calm and collective, and I have a very high tolerance for pain. When you hear me screaming in those videos, in that video, is because I was feeling the ring of fire. And it was just, I had been pushing for like basically an hour, but I had not been knowing that I had been pushing. So when I started pushing, like, his head was already like there. I had already went through the crowning stage, all of that. Okay, so for around 4:15-ish, he was born at 4:27, so I would say, or maybe around 4 o'clock. Around 4 o'clock, you know, I'm like literally screaming at this point, you know, basically pushing this baby out. And so everybody rushes in the room. The anesthesiologist comes in the room at this point. The midwife comes in the room at this point. All the baby nurses come in, you know, prepping the baby station and stuff like that. So I know that you have to sit up on the bed. You have to, you know, bear your back down, and your legs need to be dangling off this, basically the side of the bed. So I was, as soon as I saw him coming in, they brought his cart in. His cart was there, like he basically was in there when the baby was born. That's how quickly things happen. Like, the anesthesiologist didn't even get the chance to leave the room before Legend was born. So I'm like getting myself ready. Like, I'm like a person that has, like, I have tunnel vision. Even though I'm going through all of this pain, I can still focus on what I need to focus on, you know? So I knew that I had to get myself sat up, get ready for it. I told Marsha, I said, babe, come on this side so you can, you know, hold me and whatever. So everybody comes in. The midwife is standing there. She's like, have you have you been having, or she said has she, because she didn't like direct the question to me, because obviously I'm like in pain. She's like, has she been having, you know, these contractions like this for a while? And Marshall's like, yeah, she's been screaming. And she says that she's been pushing basically for a while now. The nurse is like, yeah, but she was checked in. Okay, let me know. But her, yeah, she was checked and she's only 5 centimeters, so I'm not sure why she keeps pushing. So the midwife is like, well, maybe I should. How long has it been since she's been checked? And she's like, it's been about an hour. And she's like, this is her second baby. And the nurse is like, yeah. She's like, well, maybe she's at 10 centimeters. She offered, you know, to check me before I got the epidural. I declined because I'm like, no. Like, I'm in so much pain right now. I'm emotional. You guys are telling me not to push when I feel like I should be pushing. So no, you're not gonna check me. You should have came an hour prior to this, or before he came. You know, I basically see the anesthesiologist as the light at the end of the tunnel, and she's trying to block me from, you know, getting to the light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm just like, no, at this point. So he lets a contraction pass, and at this point I'm like sitting, I like lifted. She's like, honey, you're probably pushing the baby out. And I'm like, well, we gonna have to wait. So he gives me the epidural. Basically I had a contraction. He, you know, put the plastic on my back. He gave me the first, you know, needle to numb the area, and then he gave me the epidural. As he was administrating the epidural, I was having another contraction. He finished up and I was able to lay down for the rest of that contraction. So when I laid down, I didn't even notice, like, the midwife was like in position. When I laid down, she like just stuck her fingers and she was like, oh yes honey, you're 10 centimeters. I knew that we should have probably just, you know, started pushing. You probably could have did it without the epidural. And I'm like, well, at this point it doesn't matter because the epidural hasn't even kicked in, like, you know, whatever. So I was having another contraction. So after that contraction, you know, we got my legs together, boom, the next contraction, that's when I started pushing. So basically I started to feel the epidural. Like when you guys heard me screaming and stuff, like that's when I was feeling the ring of fire. Like his head was coming out. My mom was telling me, you guys probably can't understand Spanish, but my mom was telling me that he was coming out, and that's when I was like, I feel it. But basically is I could feel his head coming out. I felt basically everything. When she started to stitch me up was when like my legs basically went dead and I couldn't feel anything after that. But yeah, I pretty much touched on everything. After the fact, the next day, I did put in a complaint because I felt very neglected. I didn't want to really talk about this, but I didn't put in like a complaint, but I told you know, I did speak to, I guess, I don't know if they call it HR. I don't know what they call it. But I spoke to this lady who was not in no nurse uniform, doctor uniform. Like she was a HR, I think, kind of person. And my nurse at the time, she was so nice, my nurse. But my nurse that helped me through recovery and stuff, she, you know, recommended that I, you know, speak to them because I, like, when I would tell the story, like, it would make me emotional. I would cry because it was a very scary moment, especially when I was told, you know, that my cervix could swell and I could have a C-section and stuff. Like, I don't want to cry now, but it was like just very emotional. It was very scary. And I felt like I was really neglected, you know what I'm saying? Like I feel like the midwives, while they were doing shift change or whatever, like I don't know what they were doing, and like no one came to check me. The nurse was just kind of sitting there, and you know, I'm sitting here pushing and she's like just telling me not to push, but it was like hard. Like, how are you telling me not to push? I feel everything, so my body was telling me that, you know, I needed to push. So you know, I kind of just talked to the HR person and just told her, like, You know, I know a lot of women don't go natural these days. A lot of people, you know, just opt to get the epidural, which is cool. I wanted to go natural because of the recovery process, which I didn't get as much epidural, you know, as I did with my first, because I needed it a couple of times with her. With this one, I kind of just got that one dosage and I let it basically wore off. So my recovery was a lot better. It could have probably been even better, which I did tear. I got 3 stitches. I only tore, it was I guess a 1st degree tear. But basically, I told her, you know, that I felt really neglected. I felt like they weren't ready for a natural birth. A lot of women choose to get the epidural nowadays, so I think that they were not ready for the progression. I went from 5 centimeters to 10 centimeters basically in an hour, and I just told them that they should have did a better job of, you know, checking me and stuff like that. So yeah, I can't believe I got through this whole video with the baby sleeping, because he has been cluster feeding, and yeah. But if I missed anything, I'm sorry. I don't think I did, because this is something that, like, this story is like engraved in my head, and I will never forget, you know, this story. But if I do, I have this video to go over. If you guys have any questions, please leave it down below. I have been great at answering a lot of questions. If you haven't checked out my labor vlog, I'll leave the card up here again, and I'll also leave it in the end screen so you could just click on it. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you give this a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you guys in our next video. Bye.